Want to welcome you all to the latest Denny Artachi Show podcast. I've got a very special guest and friend, Captain Randi Lundi, fellow Army guy. Although he was a commissioned officer, I work for a living, as us NCOs used to say. Yes. So
behind every successful officer, there's a much more successful NCO, non-commissioned officer.
Exactly. You guys make the big bucks. We do the grunt work. We wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, somebody's got to do the thinking out there.
I guess that's what it is, right? Well, we're having Randi. We have a lot of different topics. Today's topic is more of a somber topic, and life is joyful and it's fun, but it's also filled, unfortunately, with a lot of horrible realities. And recently, I think alcohol and drug abuse is just out of control in our country. I think it is globally, but it seems like we want to raise awareness. And Randi, of course, is in the medical field himself. And, I certainly have had times where I always make a joke, and it's not funny, that I'm not an alcoholic, but I've played one in real life many times. Because starting off, this prompted me also. A good musician and friend of ours recently died within a week ago. And we think it was he took some drugs that were laced with fentanyl, which that's another reason why this border situation is really hurting us in so many ways. And Randi, why do you think so many are ODing or drinking too much, and just it's so out of control in our country right now?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's a tremendous feeling of despair.
Yeah.
I think most people feel, given what the media harps on daily, what our politicians' arguments get involved with, universities, schools, it can go on, that America is not good. America was not founded on excellence. America was founded on victimization, on oppression, slavery. So I could go on about that. And so when you're growing up, if you don't feel that you're living in a country that's going to be equitable, fair, just, and have opportunity for you, then you kind of don't like the scenario, the situation you're in. If you've had a rough time growing up, and who hasn't?
Yeah,
in a dysfunctional family.
My childhood, very few people had a great childhood. So, I hate when people use that as an excuse. But, between COVID and the last 5 to 7 years, it looks like it is just exploding out of control, especially the fentanyl crisis. I mean, it's coming over from the border, most of it, is it not?
Well over 80% of illicit fentanyl is coming through our southern border, correct?
So, it used to be most people would stick to alcohol and marijuana, and that was it. But obviously this fentanyl crisis and the opioid crisis is when people took it to another level. But the first drug I want to talk about that's so dangerous is alcohol, and it is the legal drug. That, in my mind, is more of a gateway drug than anything else out there. People drink too much, they do something to offset it or wake up, it's acceptable. An interesting statistic, a horrible statistic, not interesting, is
interesting, but horrible.
Yes. Horrible that most people murdered in this country are drunk, 50% of them or more. People that commit the crimes are drunk, 50% or more. So the number one thing I see about, and I've seen it, believe me, I've personally witnessed that if I've had too much to drink too fast, you could tend to be angrier and not enjoy life as much. And so I wish more people would understand that if you're drinking more than, I think the official binge drinking is if you have more than 5 drinks within 2 hours. And be honest, Randi, if we go to a club or a restaurant.
That would be tough to do, Denny. Can you do that?
Could I do that?
5 in 2 hours.
Yes,
wow.
I could.
You
Yes,
could. Okay.
Yes.
That would be difficult to handle.
Yeah.
Especially if you start at 6 o'clock and that 2 hours ends at 8.
Well, I'm saying it does happen. It happens in the college level. We have a lot of young kids that are overdosing on alcohol. They go to the sororities and they put them into these contests, and then they have to do this to feel set in. But even if you go to these places for happy hour, it's not like the bartenders look at you and go, "Hey, you've had 3 drinks in the last hour. Let's slow it down." They don't say that.
Well, some of your good, smart bartenders will know if they don't know the client,
Yeah.
they'll know the scenario. And so I know for a fact that there are many bartenders, even in our town, that they'll play the game. If somebody keeps ordering and ordering, they're going to dilute.
Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
yes, they will, because they're not going to sit there and try to have something scenario pop up in their bar, outside of their bar, on the way home from their bar. And they do take responsibility. And I've seen bartenders tell people, I'm sorry, you've had enough. I will not serve you anymore.
You know, they say moderate drinking is healthy for you, but you know what moderate is? No more than 2 drinks for the day for men, 1 drink for females. So again, how many people fit into that category? And I'm not, look, there's been many times I've drank responsibly, but when I haven't drank responsibly, that's when I've always regretted it. Don't like the feeling the next day. But there are a lot of people out there that just, without medical intervention, cannot stop drinking.
Well, I want to go back to a few things you said earlier. Alcohol is probably our first initiation into what we would call in my profession, medical profession, addictive behavior.
Yes.
So if you want to talk about alcohol, if you want to talk about street drugs, illicit drugs, abuse of prescription drugs, the list goes on. Smoking, vaping, that's the issue is you condition your body to getting this feeling of relief, feeling of calm.
A euphoric feeling as well. It has an opiate effect.
You get a euphoric feeling, which is joy and pleasure and peace. You're stressed. You drink alcohol. At some point you become calm, and the stress goes away. You've experienced a little bit of peace and joy. So that conditioning, it's not only a physical conditioning of the alcohol in the body, it's also a psychological, emotional conditioning, knowing that, boy, I've had a tough day and I can't wait to get home or can't wait to get to happy hour because I'm going to go ahead
and relax.
I know what my formula is at that point in time. So I grew up in an alcoholic family. My family was it was dysfunctional. And I vowed.
So how did you know it was an alcoholic family? Did they drink every day?
Absolutely.
I mean, from the morning on till the evening?
Not in the morning. My dad worked a full day.
Okay.
And it was when he got home.
Okay.
As soon as he got home, he worked. He was a union blue collar guy. Get up at 5, 6 in the morning. Punch in at 7. He'd punch out at 3:30. He'd get home at 3:45, and by 4 o'clock, he'd be out the door. My mother would have dinner ready at 4. And that's the first fight of the night. I got dinner ready at 4. Well, I'm going to go down the street. But that meant I'm going to go to the club
and have a few drinks before I come back.
Then he'd come back at 6. That just got him started.
He probably had those 5 drinks within 2 hours.
Got him started. He was a Boilermaker drinker, shot of whiskey, and a beer chaser. Him and his buddies, and they did it every day. And then he would go dinner, clean up, go back out at 8 o'clock, and at 10 come back 10, 11 at night. And it was just that was the repetition of my household growing up. So I made a vow, knowing that eventually I would have children, which I have 3 boys.
Yes.
I made a vow to myself, I will never, ever, ever do that, and I'm not going to drink every day in front of my kids in my house.
Here's the problem. It doesn't happen overnight. It goes through years and years, and it just keeps exponentially growing. You don't notice it until... Like, for example, I have to experiment because I tell you that in the past I've drank way too much more than I should have in public or if I'm doing a gig. So, one of the things is, hey, what if I don't drink for a few days? How do I feel? Is my body reacting? Is my mind crazy? And so far, I can do that and turn off that switch because I'm conscious of it. I think many people, they're not conscious of it, or you're hanging around others that think, hey, it is okay to have 5 or 6 drinks during happy hour and then go home and be the angry ogre that you are. And that's the problem with it. It is legal. Folks, I'm not saying you shouldn't drink alcohol. Of course not. I'm saying be responsible, get help. There's no shame in getting help if you have a problem. Everyone is vulnerable. It's like you say, you develop an addictive personality or you mask yourself away from reality. Same can be said about marijuana. I mean, it is technically a less harmful drug, but if you're smoking pot, all day long, every day, I don't see you being very productive.
Well, let's not get too carried away about marijuana being a safe and innocuous drug.
Well, compared to, okay, I guess it seems that statistically it doesn't have the toxicity as alcohol does. Alcohol breaks down in your body differently. It stops you from healing. And I certainly am not an expert like you are. So what is your take on marijuana then, or how dangerous that is?
Well, marijuana is the problem with marijuana these days. Mm-hmm. And I've never smoked marijuana. I grew up in the...
I wish I could say that. I was an Iron Butterfly and a bunch of old hippie bands. So
I grew up in the 70s. So it was around, but
So was the other stuff in the 70s.
I stayed away from it. I wanted to go to college and on a football scholarship, which I did. And when I got to college...
Did you see that movie, Reefer Madness, and that's what stopped you from doing it?
Well, all I know is if I didn't want to be sent home from college packing and my coach kicking me off the team, telling my parents that I got kicked out because I was caught smoking marijuana.
Right.
I didn't want to even come remotely close to that. But nowadays with marijuana, the problems that we have is the THC. Mm-hmm. That's the active ingredient that is just major addictive.
Isn't it like 50 times stronger than back when you were a young lad?
Well, the way that people process marijuana now is the marijuana that is made available to the street is 10-fold, 15-fold much more potent.
Much more.
Because it has a higher concentration of THC.
So you become an instant politician once you smoke today's pot versus the 70s.
Well, that could be. You could be lobbying in that direction. But the issue that we're finding, especially with young kids, with teenagers smoking street marijuana, is that they deteriorate their cognition abilities because THC goes directly to the brain cell. And we're seeing a lot of issues with schizophrenia. Paranoia is rampant. Paranoia is very rampant with smoking of marijuana. So those are the things that set people up. And marijuana has been called a gateway drug. And believe me, it is. Because,
a lot of things can be.
Well,
Coffee can be a gateway
alcohol,
drug.
Marijuana, they're pathways to addictive behavior. And when you get into addictive behaviors and you absorb that personality of an addict, that is dangerous to your economic success, your educational success, your vocational success, your professional success, your family success. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen when you get into addictive behavioral traits. It's sociopathic. And when you deny, as my father would deny, well, I'm drinking, I'm only hurting myself. No, you're not, Dad. You're hurting the family. You're hurting those who love you because this affects us. This affects us.
It's hard because, again, I don't know anyone, including myself, where you would drink in excess and the next day you're so proud of it or you feel great. That's not what happens. But the other thing, and I believe besides alcohol, besides marijuana, this fentanyl thing is just so out of control. I don't know. I guess they're putting it in cocaine. I don't even know. What do people do anymore? They do cocaine. They do
heroin,
cocaine,
methamphetamines. Those are, right now on the street, crack, coke, heroin, meth. The meth labs.
They're
and the fentanyl. Now fentanyl. I mean, what they're doing now with fentanyl is you can take it orally, you can make it into gel, they take it into a paste. We have fentanyl pain patches. You've seen people.
So people buy fentanyl on purpose. It's not just put into these drugs that they overdose on.
Fentanyl is a prescription narcotic legend drug that is available via a physician's prescription.
Okay.
So you can get fentanyl with a legitimate physician's prescription.
Is it a painkiller?
It's a strong painkiller.
So that's what's in all the opioid crisis? It was because it was fentanyl?
Well, fentanyl is used for painkilling, for severe pain.
Okay.
Where other products like OxyContins were refractory. They weren't working well. You've got Dilaudid, you've got fentanyl, which are probably your most powerful on the legend prescription market now. Fentanyl comes available in street as well. And so you can make a paste of it, you can shoot it up, you can sniff it, you can cut the pain patches up.
I'm laughing because you're such a conservative guy. You and I talk about God, and you're so dialed in on this. I mean, because you're in the medical field and you had to learn it. And
yes.
Do you get many that come in that are on these drugs that you've got to detox and get them
Oh,
sober?
of course. I mean, they don't come in, and very rarely would they come in and say, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
taking illicit drugs.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I need some
I'm
help."
mixing fentanyl." You have to kind of probe and pry to get information once people come into a recovery center. But as I was saying, the patches, the most interesting thing I've seen is these patches are maybe index card size.
Okay.
And people cut them. And they take there's a little foil package and a delivery system package that wraps around. So they remove all the delivery transdermal patch product wrapping, and they put the patch of that has the part of the patch that's got the drug base under their tongue and take it sublingually.
See, I don't understand. I know that I'm going to die a lot earlier than I want to. These people are like in a hurry. Hey, I don't want to wait. I want the fast path to death. The other thing is, I think people get off saying it's so exciting that I could almost die, but the high is so cool. I guarantee that our friend who passed away about a week ago, who's a musician, had no idea that was good. The outcome was going to be. And I'm concerned that many people are taking these other drugs, and that's exactly what's happened. They're accidentally. Is there a statistic on how many people accidentally overdose on fentanyl or opioids? Because I think that's probably what's out of control.
Well, I don't know. I don't have a raw data on accidental doses. Number one, if somebody passes because they took an overdose, I can't find out. I can't interview that person and say,
Yeah, that's true.
Did you know, was this laced? Did you know it was laced? Or
were you looking to die? Yeah.
Right. But the problem is, going back to fentanyl, coming over the border out of China. I mean, that's a conduit.
So they're sending it from China to Mexico through the border.
Well, of course, that's how it's had. That's why the statistics in America, I've got mortality rates if you want me to pull them up here. The mortality rates that have increased in America from 2014 to now to the end of the fiscal 2021, which is a staggering 107,000 documented fentanyl deaths in the last fiscal year, as according to the DEA and the CDC, and we've never seen anything close to 75,000 fentanyl deaths. So what's happening is there's an opportunity that's going on in this country where the black market is shipping things from overseas, mostly China. Mm-hmm. They're getting sent down to the border. They're getting sent down to the border, and the mules or the hustlers, chaperones, whatever you want to call them,
yeah,
they're taking them across the border, putting it in their bodies,
yeah,
and they're packing it away. And if you watch the news, just watch the news, and you'll see almost weekly you're finding these big busts at the border, and that's what's happening. And then what they're doing is they're taking the fentanyl and they're intermixing it, as you said earlier.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I think most of the people that are overdosing are doing it by accident. I don't know too many people who are purposely trying to kill themselves, and it's just a dangerous thing out there. I think, like the whole message of this, folks, is being hooked on alcohol or any kind of drugs is not the way to go. Get help. There's plenty of help out there. There's no shame in it. Mm-hmm. The worst thing to do is to keep trucking along without help for yourself and your family. Do you have some of the statistics that you want to?
Yes, I'm just going to kind of go over, some of the things that are going on here.
I think the other thing is,
data. Yeah.
Is there free help for people that are hooked? That's the thing. We're veterans. We have the VA. Thank God they do take care of us. And a lot of veterans, they fit into this category horribly. You and I do stuff for veterans. We're also going to do something for Congressman Mast in July. And there's a lot of veterans who are homeless.
Yes.
They're hooked on drugs. They're taking alcohol. They don't care whether they live or die. And I think, unfortunately, besides veterans, there's too many people in our country, youth or people who have lost their jobs, that fall into that category. Is there free help available for people? If that's the question I'd want to know.
Well, most communities and most municipalities do have drug addiction recovery information centers.
Okay.
And so you can, if somebody, let me say it this way, Denny. If somebody wants help, they can find help. They can get started at no cost to them. They may be fortunate to go ahead and find resolution through a recovery plan that's paid for and taken care of by a government entity. But the first thing to do is to get people to get into a recovery program. much easier said than done.
Of course it is.
Much easier said than done.
First of all, person is they're going to want help.
Well, the recidivism rate of people that go into recovery programs, which means I'm a drug user, and whether I did it on my own volition, my family threatened me, or the court,
right.
or the court said, recovery or prison. So, however mechanism they get to a recovery center, they get to a recovery center. 70%, over 70% of people who go through a, let's say, 40 to 50 to 60 day recovery program, which is typical once you get detoxed,
Is that what it is typically? They have you in there for a couple of months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You get detoxification. Physical detoxification is usually 7 days, give or take a few days on either side. And once you finish on the detox side, then you go into a didactic, which is like a group counseling sessions, individual counseling sessions, where you actually move in to a facility and you're there 24/7. You're monitored, no cell phones, and everything is monitored and structured to get people to learn about the addictive behavior syndrome. There's the 12-step program that's out there. And that takes usually 30 to 40 days, and then you graduate into an independent process where you're on your own, but you're still checking in morning and night. Hey, I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to come back.
See, I had no idea, and that may deter a lot of people right there. They're like, whoa, I don't want to be put away for 2 months.
Well,
but if your life is that much out of control, it's not a long time to get.
It's not a long time, and people need time to be successful.
But you see what I'm saying? If someone's taking care of their family, they're the breadwinner, they're like, well, there's no way I can go away for 2 months to get clean and sober. But
then they'll try to do it on their own.
They will try and do it on their own.
And guess what?
And it's a high failure rate.
Yeah. It's they exacerbate. They come right back into the same thing. And as I mentioned before, 77 out of 10 people who go through a formal program and finish the formal program, 7 out of 10 of those people, they exacerbate and they become users once again. Because the whole issue, Denny, in addictive behavior syndromes are some really bad sociopathic behaviors that people come up with. First of all,
it's not just a company you keep. Because I'm telling you, if you hang around drunken sailors, no offense, Jim, if you're listening to
Commander
the podcast, yes.
Oh, by the way, speaking of sailors, totally off the subject, I want to congratulate you on having Rear Admiral Tom Lynch
thank you.
In a couple of weeks.
I'm looking forward to have him on the show, and he's part of New Day. He does the mortgages.
For those people who don't know the name, Admiral Lynch is a retired two-star Rear Admiral, and he is the chairman and CEO of New Day USA. So all those commercials that people see on television for mortgage loans, for veterans and refis, that gentleman, that's Tom Lynch. And so Tom will be on with a friend of mine. He hosted Bobby and I at the Army-Navy game.
Oh, great.
In last December, which was a fantastic
You just
time.
love him because he's a Buckeye, that's all.
Well, he is a Buckeye.
You guys are like,
but I don't like him because I had to sit at that game. I was the token Army guy. Everybody else was Navy. And I was
that right?
I was the only Army guy, and I got beat up. I'm sorry. So congratulations on.
Oh, thank you.
Admiral.
No, but where we got into the subject, I mentioned drunken sailors, but a lot of what we're talking about is hanging around people who are like-minded that say, hey, it's not okay to drink your life into oblivion or to do drugs.
Well, part of
and overdose and now your family, you're dead. You have to hang around people that think it's not normal.
Well, part of this recovery phase, this 2 month, almost 2 month phase, is making people aware of the fact that you got to change your friends. You got to change the people that you cannot come in here. Expect to be successful, which you can be here for 2 months, go back home and cavort and hang around with the same crowd that you did 2 months ago. That's a recipe for failure. But the behaviors that addictive behavior causes, and the fentanyl things, Denny, I think a lot of this is covert. I believe, and this is just me from reading the data.
Sure.
I believe that most of the fentanyl episodes that we're having are not consciously people saying, I want to buy the fentanyl. Fentanyl's being laced into
That's what I believe. Correct.
Other illicit products, and a lot of people don't know about it. I don't think knowing the risks of fentanyl, and most people do know the risk of
That's my whole point. So people that go outside of just alcohol and marijuana, and again, I'm not saying you're safe by doing both of them and bypassing the others, but like they don't put fentanyl in marijuana, do they?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they do that too. Great. So now, so next thing they'll be putting it in vodka and tequila as well.
You have to understand that the addictive nature, the addictive nature's fentanyl is 50 times more potent and greater than it is for morphine.
Okay.
And it's stronger than morphine, and it's got severe complications. Most people die.
So you know that for a fact. They're putting in marijuana now as well.
They lace it with everything.
Unbelievable.
Fentanyl they lace in fentanyl with street drugs. Yes, they do.
Okay.
Why? Because it's addictive. It is the most addictive product that you can have on the street today. And it's a synthetic product. Fentanyl is synthetic. People can make it. And that's why the availability of it is unlimited. And once you lace a methamphetamine with fentanyl and you take it and you live, you're hooked. Why? You're hooked because of the fentanyl, because it's so strong and it's got such a significant.
It's like I said earlier, well, I could die, but man, that high is great. There's no high in the world worth dying for. I don't understand it. But I didn't know that. I'm ignorant about this. I didn't know they put it in marijuana. Next thing, they're going to be putting in tequila and bourbon as well. So, but I think if more people talked about it, maybe we could bring an awareness. I know that I mentor students throughout the school district of Palm Beach County, and I also preach, anti-drugs, be healthy. It's better to be sober in life, and I know personally that it's just better to be sober, better in business, better for your personal development. And with our friends that recently passed away from this, that's why I wanted to do a show to try and raise awareness. Folks, help is out there. Like Randy was saying, there's pretty much every community has abuse programs in place that
Correct.
you can go out and get help with. Some people, though, their family has enough, and then they do an intervention, and then they actually take them away against their wishes, don't they?
Well, a lot of people end up in recovery centers because of force, because of it's not voluntary.
No.
So some people show up voluntarily, some show up involuntarily. The addictive nature, though, of alcohol, marijuana, and believe me, marijuana, your body, that brain likes that hit of THC. It likes that hit. And when you continue to condition yourself and satisfy those receptors, those neuroreceptors, what happens is we have got natural neuroreceptors in our body. These illicit drugs block the organic neuroreceptors, and the nerves absorb the illicit compound. And that's why the demand is there, because the body says, I need that, I need that, I need that. Yeah, I know I've got my own organic things, but it's not like the same hit I get. And people who go to your addictive people who have this behavioral patterns, they're very good at lying.
Yeah, well, they don't want anyone to know. They are secret. Absolutely.
They are excellent fabricators. They're excellent.
Wait a minute, you just described a lot of people in power right now. Hold on a second.
But this is what we have to understand about people that are involved in addictive behaviors. They lie, and fabrication lying. They can make up a story and they can lie their way through and around anything, and they're very convincing because they're sociopathics. They also exploit and use people. They'll use you for everything they can get out of you in order to keep their fix going. And that is, so those behaviors.
But the fix is obvious. I mean, you can obviously tell when someone is not sober. I mean,
but yes. Addictive behaviors are very, very visible. But most of the time, family members deny it. The user denies it, and it's a bad scenario because you want to help people, you want to get a loved one taken care of.
I have read that because, like I said, I've had my concerns myself because I've been in rock and roll bands, and the memories aren't always great, but. I did read that most of these addictive personalities, alcohol, they're in denial. They don't think they have a problem.
Correct.
So as long as I can always go, dude, you may have a problem. At least I'm on the right path, or at least everyone out there listening. If you can question yourself and go, you know what? Let me see if I can go a few days without this and see if it makes a difference. If you cannot do that, then you have a problem. There was an old joke that I'm not an alcoholic because I don't go to those damn meetings. Well, it's that denial thing. But the simple fact is, whatever your drug is, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, or any of these other crazy things that people get involved in, if you cannot consciously say, I'm not going to do that today or a few days or a week, and not feel normal, then that's probably the biggest sign that you have an issue. And I would think.
I think also people need to understand, no matter what you're abusing, even something as simple as marijuana, there are ill effects. There are ill effects that come out of this whole thing. So whether you want to take the responsibility for that or not, know that down the road you cannot. There are people who have tried to smoke marijuana their entire life. They can't do it. There are people that have tried to drink their entire life.
What are you talking about? I know plenty of people that have smoked. As long as I've known, I'm like, man, don't you ever give it a break? No, what are you talking about? It's not, because I think they build their tolerance.
They build a tolerance.
They may start off having a few puffs. Now it's like, well, I could smoke a whole bag and be okay.
That was my point. My point that I was going to finish was they can do it their whole life and they can't. Why? Because they build tolerance. So what do they have to do? They have to go to the next level.
And folks, please forgive us. It's not a laughing matter. I do want to bring awareness. It's more like a nervous reaction because there's so many serious things like this in life, and we do want to bring awareness. It's not a laughing matter, but Randy and I we're pranksters and jokesters with each other. That's why we do music together and do a lot of things. But this is a serious issue.
We have a serious issue, and it's connected also, Denny, with homelessness.
Yes.
Today in California, they're having their primary elections and recalls. They're working on recalls for the prosecutor in Los Angeles County and the prosecutor in San Francisco, because these folks are allowing the homeless people to set up tents on public streets and continue to abuse their abuse of illicit drugs. They hand out needles to them. Our own presidential administration last year was passing out safe street drug kits that had crack pipes in them. They contain crack pipes. So when we have governments that are supporting and encouraging what they consider to be safe use, there is no such thing as safe use with illicit street drugs, and allowing people to be on these, to camp and live on public streets. This is why they're having the recall elections in California.
I think it starts with the family, having the nucleus and a regular, normal family. It starts in our school systems to educate, because education is the only way, and awareness, that people can win this battle. Because if you fall onto this, the saying is, it controls you. You don't control it. Once you've gotten to a certain stage of addiction, that's why you need the intervention. It controls you. You don't control it.
And I have a great concern for our veterans, Denny. We have 50,000 plus homeless veterans in America today, and many of those veterans, God bless them, they don't want to use, but they have no other alternative in their mind. They can't find their place in society. They have not acculturated and assimilated after they've done their service. And that's a big problem. Yes, the VA is much more responsive. Year after year, they're getting much more responsive for treatment opportunities and providing our veterans with housing opportunities and care opportunities.
This VA here, which I go to, and I think you used West Palm Beach,
yes.
It's one of the best in the country, and the facility's good. The people there really care about the veterans. But still, all in all, you're right. I see it too often. We've done golf charity events for veterans and many things.
Did last year, yes.
And it's so sad to see fellow veterans that did so much. But it's not just veterans. There's a lot of people through COVID and the economy and everything that I think, because life is so hard and they either don't have mentors or some kind of support systems in place, that's why they do turn to alcohol and drugs instead of going to church or praying to God and looking for other ways to deal with it. Because you can feel good by eating well and exercising, but it takes more work. It's not just a pill that you pop in. You work at it. I have some friends that don't understand as a musician, because I still play. how I'd want to be asleep by 10 o'clock. And I'm like, well, because I want to be at the gym at 5:30. That's why.
And
it doesn't make sense.
I've got a full day of business tomorrow.
Exactly right.
Yes.
I can't just sleep in. I have clients, I have partners and things that I have to do. So that's another sign that if you can't stop and it gets in the way of your business and you're making money or having a good, happy family, people should get help out there. And there's no shame in it. The shameful thing is to continue doing what you're doing and hurting yourself and your family. Get some help.
There's a lot of folks out there that we call functional addicts.
Yes.
They can drink, they can use, and they're functional day after day after day. But there comes a point in time where that something happens. Money goes away, job goes away, a crisis pops up, something happens, and that's again another denial process that people get into where they say, "Well, I can do this and I can do that. And look how good I can still do this. I can still work." But it's not a good lifestyle for people to try to live on a daily basis. And the whole thing there, Denny, talk to people, speak to people if you got friends. We talk about see something, say something.
Yes.
Do that with your friends. If you feel people
right.
that are having an issue, certainly get involved. And that's nothing but, that's not criticism, it's just love. It's just flat out love for our brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I think most people turn to those vehicles because they don't have someone to turn to. There's no one to talk to, so they want to mask and take away the pain or whatever they're dealing with. And unfortunately, because of COVID, I mean, the draconian style lockdowns that they were imposing, I mean, how could people not flip out in the last few years?
Well,
and go to alcohol and drugs.
Drugs happened.
Crazy behavior.
Talk about pandemics, alcoholism, drug use, obesity and overweight.
Obesity, murders.
Violence. I mean, we could go on and list everything that happened during the pandemic time, to include vaping.
Yeah, vaping. That's a crazy thing. I can't see how they don't see that smoke that comes out is like a whole chimney, how it's bad for you.
There's a whole lot of nonsense.
Because they sold
vaping.
that as the safe thing to do, right? Hey, just go ahead and vape. You have some statistics on vaping because it is insane.
I know when we were preparing for this, I had mentioned to you that I wanted to make a mention on vaping because remember how popular it was, 2 or 3 years ago?
Absolutely, they were like,
COVID.
Oh, this is a safe alternative to smoking. Absolutely, don't worry about it.
You could get vapes with nicotine and without nicotine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, it was
flavor stores. It was like
such a struggle because high schoolers were vaping.
Oh, everybody was vaping. It was safe.
Yeah, safe, right.
Think
How
anybody's
safe
vaping
is it now? What have they come out with data-wise for this?
This is something from the American Cancer Society that I just thought was kind of very interesting. Oh my goodness. Okay, so vaping, what does it contain? It contains e-liquids, which would be electronic liquids, of course, as you know.
Right.
So how they first started this was they got these vape pens. And you charge this little USB battery or something in a USB port. You charge the battery, you plug the battery into this vape stick, and then the vape stick, the battery would heat up the stick, which would melt everything in.
Well, who came up with this?
Condense it and create smoke.
I've got this great idea. We're going to smoke liquid with an electronic tube stuck in it.
So there's aerosols, which all we know. We banned, we didn't ban, we don't use aerosols anymore for underarm deodorant.
What is the carcinogen of these vape smoke? It's got to be like 10 that's great.
Aldehydes.
Oh, okay.
Formaldehyde.
Yeah, right.
Aldehydes. Yeah. It's a stabilizing
So they're sticking all this in the vape chemicals.
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to just
But it tastes so good, according to them, Randy.
Well, because that's what they mask it with. They mask everything. You could go in and buy.
Maybe bubblegum flavor.
It's a smorgasbord. Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
So I've got a little table here, Denny, of some
Are they
of the
actually
things.
Inhaling the vape, though?
Of course.
Oh, my God.
And that's why,
so like cigar smokers, they're not supposed to inhale, but they do with the vaping.
Well, the whole purpose of vaping was to inhale, so you could get the
water, the sensation of something
smoking,
going, right?
Yeah, because you've got the smoke, which is the condensation of the mist from the heat boiling over the aldehydes and the chemicals, and you breathe it into your lungs. Bottom line is, Denny, nobody's vaping anymore that's got a brain because it was tearing up people's lungs. So here's a list of the toxic chemicals that have been found by the American Cancer Society studies.
I don't see anybody really vaping anymore. You're right. It used to be such a fad.
Acetylpropanol, acrolein, acrylamide, acrylonitrile, benzohyde, cinnamaldehyde.
It looks like you're
citral,
reading off like salad dressing or mayonnaise at the store or something.
Diacetyltide, eucalyptopol, formaldehyde, ovanillin, pentanedione, propylene oxide, Poulagon. I mean, some of these I can't even. I mean, I've been doing healthcare for 40 years. I don't even know.
Well,
what
the last
are.
one was vanilla. Now, wait a minute. I like vanilla. Hold on. That's the flavor. So as your lungs get all destroyed, you can at least taste good while it's doing it.
Well, there
right?
were a lot of pulmonary ill effects and a lot of heart effects too. So actually, these chemicals that were in vapes were actually tearing down the small little air sacs in your lungs called alveoli. And what they did to your arteries, heart, lungs, wherever in the body, was they would tear down the artery walls. They were so toxic, you would get like microbleeds, small little bleeds that were going on into your arteries that carry the blood.
That's a lot faster than tobacco. I'm sorry, my friend.
As fast as vaping came in, vaping went out.
Okay, well, so folks, alcohol, marijuana, vaping, fentanyl, crystal meth, I don't know. I would, and on top of that, people eat too much fast food. Okay, so and they don't exercise. So they're hooked on these drugs. They're not exercising. They're eating like crap. And I think you know what? For the first time, I think in the last few years, our mortality tables have been dropping. People are not, living longer. The trend is starting to change, and I think it's because of this and our lifestyles and the food that we're eating. I mean, God knows cancer's out of control, too. And unfortunately, a lot of these drugs, including alcohol stops your body from healing itself. It creates a lot of problems that your body's burning the acetate in it. But these other drugs, these street drugs, my God, look at all those chemicals you said.
Well, this is vaping. But I think the greatest fear, and I would directly address this to parents.
Sure.
The greatest fear as a parent and concern that I believe is prevalent are two things. Do not let your kids vape. Vaping is toxic. And just for the data that we've been able to collect for the last maybe 5 years has proven the ill effects of how bad it is on the cardiovascular system and how bad it is for the pulmonary, the respiratory, the lungs. Really bad. Secondly, illicit drugs. I would be checking with your children constantly. And when I say children, I don't mean just the teenagers. I mean the 20s and 30s, because this is running rampant. Yes, the prevalence, the mortality rates are high with the teen years.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
And no doubt about that.
Or they're getting in a car driving and they're getting into accidents. It's out of control.
They're taking other illicit street drugs that are being laced with fentanyl. And that's if any message, Denny, can come out of our podcast today, is people need to understand that every street drug right now is so polluted with fentanyl because it's synthetic. You can make it easy, you can distribute it easily, and it is the most addictive product that you could possibly have on the face of the earth right now.
There is no high worth dying for. That's all, and I've lost too many people that I know, friends. If COVID didn't get them, cancer didn't get them, overdosing on this. So, again, I feel so bad. I hope that you take this message truly. And yes, parents need to, not just the teenagers, when they're in their 20s and 30s, when their kids lose their jobs or they're going through rough times.
When you got a rough time in life.
And they're reaching out not to God or counseling, but to alcohol and drugs.
If you see any significant behavioral changes that happen quickly and abruptly, that's a sign that something could possibly be going on as well.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing behaviors that are totally out of the ordinary, never seen it before, and you're wondering, wonder what happened. And then your child says, everything's great, everything's cool.
I didn't know. I knew you did a lot of physical therapy with your medical career, but you have also a lot for addiction, apparently, huh? You have a lot to come in.
Well, being an Army Nurse Corps officer, we dealt with a lot of addictive behaviors, PTSD, addictive behaviors, mental health disorders, and it's just unfortunately it's a reality. Well, you were active duty, so you
Absolutely,
saw it.
yes.
You saw it with
Absolutely.
your troops.
PTSD and it's prevalent to
Now,
everyone.
The beauty in the military is we could order people what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
So we had some semblance of control in that, but that doesn't help people once they get on their own and get back into the civilian life. But it is a common thread that we're always looking at across all service branches, is to be aware of mental health disorders and to provide those services for not only veterans, but also for active duty people, especially when they are overseas deployed. And we're also trying to take care and minister to their families. So when the dad or the mom is away and the rest of the family with the kids are still in the United States, separated, that's a tough time as well. So on the military side, on the VA side, we keep that always first and foremost in considerations to make sure that when people get deployed or when they come back from deployment,
Sure.
that everybody's clean, everybody's healthy, everybody's mental faculties are stable. So when that deployed person comes back and joins the family, that they can just pick up the slack
Sure.
and continue to move forward and find.
What you're describing support groups, and the problem is most people who know that they have either mental or emotional issues, they just don't have a place to go to. They don't have people to talk to, and that's where the breakdown is. They don't have someone to talk to because the first thing they say, well, Randy, it's just all in your head. Yeah, that's the problem. It is all in my head, and I need to get it out of my head. And
I want to bring people back to the church too. We've left the church. This country has left the church.
Yes.
And if you need help at any part of your life, addictive behaviors, alcoholism, and drugs inclusive, your church will help you. If you go to your
Absolutely.
church and you make an appeal to your church for help and your clergy, they will help you and get you on a good path. Because
I recently was going through a rough patch, and absolutely, I went to my church, and I spoke to the clergy and the pastors, and they were very helpful. Absolutely. And you're right. People do need to reach out.
And you talk about getting services, or a little while ago, what kind of service can we get at no charge? Your church.
Your church, exactly.
That's
right.
That's why the church is there. The church is there to minister.
Right.
So go back to the church, go back to God, go back to Jesus, whoever your superior being is, and have that moment, have that conversation, and let the church help as well. So communities, government agencies, but there's no better way, I think, than the church to be your number one resource for you.
Absolutely. So, folks, I hope if you're listening to the podcast that you heed it, you get some help. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's certainly worth it. And there is support. There are support groups out there. I'm just so tired of losing friends. Something that happened so senseless recently, and that's why I usually like to have happy, upbeat podcasts. But I also like to, discuss many different things. And this is an important topic. It really is. In our country, in our world. It's better to be sober and work out your problems. I'm not saying that you can't fail and fall off the wagon and
sure.
stuff from time to time, but at least know that it is worth it. It is worth getting help. You'll like life much better when you detox yourself and you learn to be sober and you eat well and you exercise. You're never going to regret it. You're never going to go back to, hey, I still like to be a drug addict or an alcoholic because I had so much more fun when I did that.
God has a good plan for every one of us.
I think so,
and He
yes.
knows our plans. So if you're butting your head against one road and you can't get forward, leave that road and find the path of least resistance, because that's where God wants you to be. Go to the church. Let the church help out Denny. And I thank you for allowing me to be here today to talk about this issue. Be safe. There's too much danger out there on the streets. Fentanyl is taking over.
It's just not worth it. Yeah,
it's not
worth it.
It's not worth it because you can lose your life in a heartbeat. Technically, really a heartbeat these days on the streets.
And like I said, I know I'm going to die way before I want to. I don't want to speed up the process. And it concerns me. Maybe fear is a good thing, because if I had no fear, maybe I'd get hooked on this stuff too. But I'm afraid of dying and messing with this great. I watch how much coffee I drink, for crying out loud. But folks, get help. It's out there. There's no shame in it. Life is worth it. It really is. Thanks for listening to the Denny Artachi Show, and hopefully the next week will be a more uplifting topic. But this one really touched home with me recently, where a friend recently passed away, and I'm sure that he was not planning to do that. So make it a great day. God bless, and we'll see you next time. And thanks, Randy. Always
you,
a
Danny.
pleasure, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.